The three alien princes looked down at the small blue planet from their massive starship. Its surface seemed calm, quiet, almost fragile. To them, it was nothing, just another world to conquer, another species to bend beneath their power. Talrek, the eldest, narrowed his eyes. "This world is ours for the taking," he said, his voice full of pride. His younger brothers, Varak and Joran, nodded eagerly, imagining humans falling at their feet. The princes had ruled their own worlds for centuries. They had never met a race that could resist them, never faced a species that could match their strength. And yet, something about this planet felt different. But pride drowned any hesitation. "Send the scouts," Talrek ordered. "We will teach these creatures their place in the galaxy." In a blink, small craft descended to the planet's surface. The scouts moved silently, confident in the prince's power. They were fast, lethal, and trained to destroy anything that dared oppose them. The aliens expected an easy victory. They imagined humans panicking, begging for mercy, and surrendering immediately. But the humans were nothing like the aliens expected. As the first scout stepped onto the soil, a faint ripple shimmered through the air. The scout was small, only about half the size of a Terran soldier, and lightly armored. Yet, their eyes were calm, fearless, unwavering. Talrek laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Look at them. They are insignificant. This one cannot even hold a proper weapon." The human scout did not bow, did not tremble. Instead, they raised a small device that hummed faintly with blue light. "Leave now," the human said, voice steady, voice strong. "Or you will regret it." Talrek barked a laugh, filled with arrogance. "Regret? What can this thing do to us?" But as the human scout held their ground, a strange feeling passed over the princes. It was subtle at first, a twinge of unease, but it grew. There was something in the way the humans stood, something in their calm certainty, that made even Talrek's claws tighten nervously. Suddenly, the air around the scouts shimmered again. From the shadows and trees, more humans appeared. Dozens, then hundreds, moving with precision and quiet determination. Talrek's laughter faltered. Their numbers were not massive, but their formation, their movement, their confidence, it was unlike anything the princes had seen before. Varak whispered under his breath, his pride cracking. "This is unusual." Talrek's jaw tightened. "They are just small creatures. Nothing more." Yet the humans advanced without fear. They didn't panic, didn't scatter. They moved like a single unit, each step purposeful, each gesture coordinated. The blue hum of their devices filled the air, faint but undeniable. Even from the starship above, the princes could feel the power of their will. For the first time in centuries, Talrek felt a shiver of doubt. They had faced countless enemies, rebellions, rival empires, monsters from uncharted systems. But this was different. The humans didn't seem afraid, and in their calm, precise actions, they seemed to hold a strength the princes could not measure. The wind blew through the canyon, where the first scout had landed. And in that moment, Talrek realized something terrifying. This would not be a simple battle. These humans were not weak, not helpless, not worth contempt. They were something entirely new. Something that could challenge the pride of the Terran Empire itself. Talrek turned to his brothers, their claws twitching, their eyes wide with uncertainty. For the first time, the princes did not feel invincible. The arrogance that had carried them through countless victories trembled, replaced by a new emotion, a whispering fear that these humans might not only resist, but could destroy everything they had built. And so, the first step of the invasion began not with fear or caution, but with a small human figure standing firmly in their path, daring them to challenge what they could not yet understand. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. The humans did not scatter. They did not run. Instead, they advanced calmly, almost fearlessly, forming tight lines that no alien weapon could easily break. Talrek's claws twitched with irritation. "Strike them," he ordered, voice sharp with authority. Lasers and energy bolts shot from the alien ships, slicing the air with deadly intent. But the humans moved in ways the princes had never expected. They dodged and rolled, ducking behind rocks and trees, using the terrain to shield themselves. Their movements were fluid, almost like water, unpredictable, and precise. Talrek's laughter, which had once been full of pride, faltered. How can they avoid everything?" He muttered. One human, a young scout with determined eyes, ran straight toward Varak. In the alien's view, it seemed impossible for such a small creature to approach him. But the human leapt, firing a pulse that struck Varak's armor. Sparks flew, and the prince staggered back, roaring in disbelief. He had never been touched like this in battle before. "Retreat, coward!" Vorak shouted, trying to intimidate the human with his massive size and sharp claws. The human did not hesitate. Instead, they aimed again, firing another pulse that forced Vorak to step back. Around them, the other humans worked together, creating traps, using nets and devices that immobilized smaller alien drones before they could even attack. Talrek's chest burned with anger and confusion. Joran, the youngest prince, turned to his brothers, eyes wide with fear. "This isn't possible. They should have fallen already. How can such small creatures fight like this?" Talrek bared his teeth, trying to hide his unease. "Ignore them. They are nothing but insects," he hissed. Yet even as he spoke, he noticed a creeping fear among his forces. The aliens' once confident soldiers were now cautious, unsure of each step. They had never faced an enemy like this, an enemy that combined speed, intelligence, and courage, the human scout leading the defense. Named Lyra, moved with precision, guiding her team like a conductor leading an orchestra. Every strike, every dodge, every trap was calculated. She didn't need numbers or massive weapons. She only needed strategy and heart. Talrek's pride could not accept it. "Attack harder!" he shouted, sending more energy blasts toward the humans. Yet the humans continued to flow around the attacks, their movements unpredictable, their confidence unshaken. Vorak growled, slamming his claw into the ground in frustration. "We've faced whole fleets and crushed them. How can a handful of these creatures resist us?" Talrek's eyes narrowed, watching as the humans used the terrain to their advantage. They leapt from cliffs, disappeared into shadows, and reappeared behind alien lines. Each movement was precise, and each success of the humans made the prince's anger and fear grow. The prince's ships fired relentlessly, but each shot seemed to fail against the humans' coordination. Talrek felt a strange new emotion bubbling inside him, something he had never felt before. Fear, not just for victory, but for his pride, for the Empire, and for his own life. A human shouted, rallying her team, and in that moment, Talrek realized the terrifying truth. This species, this seemingly weak, fragile race, was not only capable of fighting, they were capable of winning. And the thought struck him harder than any weapon ever could. Maybe, just maybe, humans were stronger than the princes themselves. For the first time, the alien princes hesitated. Their arrogance, their confidence, their belief in invincibility, it all cracked under the weight of the humans' courage. They had faced warriors before, monsters before, armies before, but never creatures like this. The air filled with energy pulses, shouts, and the hum of strange devices. The prince's pride had brought them here, but the humans' courage would soon make them question everything they believed. And as Talrek's chest tightened, he could not ignore the simple, undeniable truth. The humans were ready to fight, and they would not lose. The alien princes retreated to the rocky canyons, hoping to regroup and strike back with more force. The ground trembled under the power of their starship, and their hearts thumped with pride and fear. Talrek paced, claws scraping the stone floor. "We underestimated them," he admitted, though his voice carried the weight of anger more than humility. Vorak growled, his wings folded tightly against his back. "Impossible. They are just small creatures. How can they resist everything we throw at them?" Joran, the youngest, could not hide the tremor in his voice. "They are not just resisting, they are hunting us." Talrek's eyes narrowed. "Hunting us? Nonsense. Humans cannot fight like this. They should be scared." Yet, deep in his chest, he felt a cold knot of doubt twisting tighter. For centuries, he had believed the universe bowed to the Terran Empire. But here, in the shadows of this canyon, he felt powerless for the first time. Outside, the humans were relentless. They didn't simply chase. They strategized. They moved silently over cliffs and through forests, cutting off escape routes and setting traps in ways that defied the prince's expectations. Each time the aliens tried to regroup, the humans were already there, waiting. Talrek clenched his fists. "We will crush them. They cannot be stronger than us." But as the prince's forces tried to advance, a net of energy pulses and clever traps immobilized several of their smaller units. Sparks flew, engines sputtered, and alien soldiers shouted in confusion. Panic spread like wildfire. Talrek's prideful roar rang hollow as his troops stumbled under the humans' calculated assault. Human scout leapt from a cliff, landing directly in front of Talrek. She held a device that sent waves of energy knocking back the alien soldiers. Talrek raised his claws to strike, But the human moved faster than his eyes could follow, dodging every attack. She looked up at him, calm and fearless. "Strength is not just power," she said, voice steady. "It is heart. It is courage. It is knowing what you fight for." Talrek froze. The words pierced deeper than any weapon. For the first time, he felt something other than anger, fear. Fear of being defeated, not just physically, but in spirit. His brothers stared at the human, their faces pale beneath their armored scales. The realization settled in. Their arrogance had blinded them. Varric hissed, trying to regain control. "Do not listen to it. They are small, weak creatures. We are kings. We are invincible." But even as he spoke, the humans had surrounded them. They moved with the precision of hunters, predicting the aliens' moves before they made them. Tarek's starship fired again, but the humans used the canyon walls as cover, ducking behind rocks, disappearing from sight. Then striking with devices that short-circuited the aliens' weapons. Joran's voice cracked. We cannot win like this. They are too clever, too strong." Talrek felt his pride crumble. For generations he had believed strength was measured in size and weapons. But these humans, small and seemingly fragile, had shown him that strength was also in courage, unity, and intelligence. Every movement they made reminded him that arrogance could not protect him. The canyon echoed with shouts, the hum of energy devices, and the roars of frustrated princes. Talrek realized, with a chill creeping through him, that their battle was slipping beyond their control. The humans were not just defending, they were teaching a lesson. A lesson the Terran Empire had never learned. Power alone does not guarantee victory. As dusk fell, casting long shadows across the rocky canyon, Talrek looked at his brothers. Their faces reflected the same realization. Fear, confusion, and humility mingled in their eyes. They were kings of their world, yet here, on this distant planet, they were vulnerable, and somewhere deep inside, Talrek knew that this battle was not just about winning. It was about learning a truth that no empire could teach. Humans, small and fragile though they seemed, could be the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The alien prince's retreat through the canyon became frantic. Talrek's heart thumped loudly, a rhythm he hadn't felt in centuries. Every step he took reminded him that they were no longer masters of this battlefield. They were being hunted, cornered, outsmarted, and forced into fear they had never imagined. "Increase the shields." Talrek barked, his voice cracking with tension. His claws shook as he activated the energy barriers on his starship. Varric and Joran scrambled to respond, firing desperate beams at shadows where humans might be hiding. But the humans didn't panic. They didn't retreat. Instead, they flowed like water, disappearing and reappearing, striking in moments the princes could not predict. A pulse shot from a human device, hitting the ground just beneath Joran's feet. The prince stumbled back, roaring in fury. His pride burned hotter than the heat of his engines. "Impossible!" he shouted. "This is impossible. They should not be able to fight like this." Talrek's chest tightened as he scanned the terrain. The humans were everywhere. They had anticipated every trap, every maneuver, every retreat. The canyon, once a place where the princes expected to dominate, now felt like a cage. He could hear the whispers of his soldiers, panic threading through their roars. Even his own brothers were trembling, a rare sight that made Talrek's stomach knot. "This cannot be happening." Varric hissed. "We are Terran princes. We are supposed to be invincible." Talrek clenched his jaw. He wanted to believe it. He wanted to roar, to strike, to unleash the fury of his empire. But deep inside, a gnawing doubt had taken root. These humans, small, seemingly fragile, had broken through his expectations. Their courage, their unity, their intelligence, it was a force he could not overpower with strength alone. Lyra, the human scout leading the defense, appeared on a ridge above them. Her eyes met Talrek's, calm but unyielding. She lifted her device, sending a wave of energy that forced several alien units to their knees. "It doesn't matter how big you are," she said, voice echoing in the canyon. "Strength alone does not win battles. Heart does." Talrek staggered back, feeling a strange chill. The words were not just a warning, they were a declaration. He realized with a sinking heaviness that the humans were not just defending their world. They were proving a truth that the princes had ignored for centuries. Arrogance could never replace courage, and power could never replace wisdom. Joran fell to his knees, wings trembling. We are trapped," he admitted, voice barely audible. "There is no way out. Not like this." Talrek swallowed hard, feeling the crushing weight of shame and fear. They had come expecting to dominate, expecting victory. Now, their pride was in ruins, their soldiers scattered, and their hope fading. Desperation gnawed at them like a predator. Varrok's claws scraped the rock floor in frustration. "We cannot die here. Not like this. We are princes." But the humans were relentless. Every attempt to strike back was countered with precision. Nets, energy pulses, and traps immobilized the alien units again and again. Talrek realized that brute force would not win this battle. The humans were too clever, too organized, and too fearless. He looked at Lyra once more, standing tall against impossible odds. She was small, almost fragile compared to him, yet her presence radiated strength that made him shiver. For the first time, Talrek understood something profound. Humans did not need size or empire to be powerful. They had something the Terran Empire could never fully grasp: resolve, courage, and the will to fight for what they believed was right. Talrek felt the edges of his pride crack. The canyon, once a place for triumph, had become a prison of reality. The alien princes had entered the humans' world with arrogance, expecting victory, and now they faced a humbling truth. They were not invincible. And that realization, heavier than any weapon, sank deep into their hearts. The alien princes had never felt such helplessness. Talrek's pride, once unshakable, lay in ruins. His claws, usually sharp with command, trembled as he struggled against the energy restraints humans had carefully placed around him. Varric and Joran were trapped beside him, their wings pinned and their bodies immobilized. Every roar, every threat, every command felt meaningless against the calm, unyielding humans who surrounded them. Talrek's voice shook as he demanded, "Release us. We are the princes of the Terran Empire. You dare not hold us." One human scout stepped forward, her eyes bright with determination, yet soft with understanding. "Titles do not protect you," she said gently. "You came to conquer, to humiliate, to destroy. And yet, here you are, unable to take a single step without facing the consequences of your arrogance." Varrok's chest heaved with rage and disbelief. "This is an insult. We are kings. We command fleets. We crush worlds." The scout shook her head. "You may command fleets, but courage and heart are what win battles. Strength without wisdom is nothing. Pride without respect is dangerous." Talrek's ears twitched with humiliation. Every lesson he had learned as a prince, every battle he had won through fear and force, seemed meaningless in the face of these humans. They were small, fragile in appearance, yet unbreakable in spirit. Every glance they cast, every move they made, reminded him that he had underestimated them completely. Joran's voice trembled. We cannot escape. No traps, no weapons. Nothing works." Talrek turned to his brothers, seeing the same shock mirrored in their eyes. Their arrogance, their belief in invincibility, had been shattered. For the first time, they were forced to face a truth they had long ignored, that the humans they had thought weak were capable of remarkable, unstoppable courage. The humans moved calmly, ensuring that none of the princes could escape or rally their forces. It was not just victory, they were teaching a lesson. Each movement was precise, deliberate, and unwavering. Talrek realized this was more than a battle. It was a demonstration of the consequences of arrogance, the power of unity, and the strength of heart over size. Varric hissed, attempting to free himself. Sparks flew from his struggling claws, but the human devices held firm. How can they do this? We have ruled planets, conquered empires, faced enemies stronger than these." Lyra, the human scout, knelt close to Talrek. "You misjudged us. You assumed we were weak. You assumed size and weapons would give you victory. You were wrong. Look around. You are not the first to underestimate courage, and you will not be the last to learn its power." Talrek's pride burned hot, but alongside it, a strange feeling grew: respect. The humans had done what no alien force had done before. They had broken his confidence and humbled him, without killing a single prince. The pain of humiliation was sharp, but beneath it was a dawning realization of what true strength meant. Overek growled low in his throat, unable to speak. Joran's wings shivered, his head bowed in defeat. Talrek looked at them both and knew that their empire could no longer see humans as insignificant. They had been forced to confront the impossible small beings with hearts larger than any fleet or weapon they had ever commanded around them. The humans stood silently, watching, guarding, and maintaining control without arrogance. Talrek's chest ached with the weight of this lesson. They had come to conquer, but the humans had taught them something far more valuable. Respect is earned, courage can defeat fear. And pride alone cannot shield you from reality. Tal Rek closed his eyes for a moment, swallowing the bitter truth. Their humiliation was complete. They had faced humans, and humans had won. Not just in battle, but in spirit. The alien princes were escorted back to their ship, their massive forms restrained, their pride shattered. The once grand wings of Varek and Joran drooped, heavy with humiliation. Talrek walked beside them, his claws dragging slightly across the floor. The humans did not mock them. They did not taunt or celebrate. Instead, they moved with quiet dignity, maintaining control without arrogance. For the first time, Talrek looked at the humans not as creatures to be conquered, but as equals, something even more terrifying. They were small, fragile in appearance, yet strong in ways that could not be measured by weapons or armies. Their calm determination and precise coordination had forced the mighty Terran Empire princes into submission without unnecessary violence. This species, Varek muttered, his voice low and trembling. They are dangerous. Not because of size or weapons, but because of their courage. And their mind. Talrek nodded slowly. Yes, we judge them by our rules. By strength alone. And we were wrong. They fight with strategy, with heart, and with unity. We cannot ignore that. Joran's eyes were wide, reflecting a mix of fear and awe. We thought we could crush them in moments. But they showed us what true power is. The humans allowed them to return to their ship, but only under watchful eyes. Talrek felt a strange weight in his chest, not pain, but respect. Every step they took was heavy with realization. Their empire had taught them to rule through fear and might. But the humans had taught them a different lesson, that courage and intelligence could topple arrogance faster than any weapon could. As the starship rose from the planet's surface, Talrek looked down at the humans, standing firm, eyes steady. Not celebrating, but simply existing as they were. A strange warmth filled him, not pride, not victory, but understanding. They had underestimated the humans, yes, but now they would never forget them. Varek turned to Talrek. Do you think they will attack us again? Talrek shook his head slowly. No, they don't need to. They've already taught us more than any battle could. Their strength is not in destruction, but in survival. In courage. That is more dangerous than any fleet. Joran whispered, almost to himself. I never thought a species so small could make me feel so powerless. Talrek's eyes softened, and for the first time, he spoke without arrogance. Power is not just weapons or fleets. It is heart, courage, and unity. We came here to conquer. And instead, we learned humility. And perhaps, respect. The ship's engines roared as they left the atmosphere. Talrek felt the reality settling in. Humans were not merely survivors, they were warriors in the truest sense. The Terran Empire might have had fleets, armies, and centuries of victories. But humans had something no empire could buy or build. Spirit. In the silence of the stars, the three princes reflected on their failure. Talrek's claws rested heavily on the console, and he realized that no apology could undo the lesson they had learned. But perhaps, in understanding it, they could carry something greater than pride back to their people. Wisdom. Varek sighed, wings folding tightly. We underestimated them. And it almost cost us everything. Talrek looked out the viewport, staring at the planet that had humbled them. Yes, and never again will we make the mistake of thinking strength alone defines victory. Today, humans have taught us more than any battle, any war, or any empire ever could. They are remarkable. Joran nodded slowly, eyes soft with awe. And terrifying, he added quietly, almost in wonder. The three princes sat in silence, the hum of the ship echoing their thoughts. Their lesson had been harsh, their pride wounded, but their understanding was clear. Humans were not weak. They were extraordinary. For the first time, the Terran Empire princes truly saw them, not as prey, not as insects, not as a challenge, but as something far greater than they had imagined. Humanity had not only survived, they had taught, humbled, and inspired. And Talrek knew, deep in his chest, that the universe had just become a far more interesting place because of it. The alien princes were escorted back to their ship, their massive forms restrained, their pride shattered. The once grand wings of Varek and Joran drooped, heavy with humiliation. Talrek walked beside them, his claws dragging slightly across the floor. The humans did not mock them. They did not taunt or celebrate. Instead, they moved with quiet dignity, maintaining control without arrogance. For the first time, Talrek looked at the humans not as creatures to be conquered, but as equals, something even more terrifying. They were small, fragile in appearance, yet strong in ways that could not be measured by weapons or armies. Their calm determination and precise coordination had forced the mighty Terran Empire princes into submission without unnecessary violence. This species, Varek muttered, his voice low and trembling. They are dangerous. Not because of size or weapons, but because of their courage. And their mind. Talrek nodded slowly. Yes, we judge them by our rules. By strength alone. And we were wrong. They fight with strategy, with heart, and with unity. We cannot ignore that. Joran's eyes were wide, reflecting a mix of fear and awe. We thought we could crush them in moments. But they showed us what true power is. The humans allowed them to return to their ship, but only under watchful eyes. Talrek felt a strange weight in his chest, not pain, but respect. Every step they took was heavy with realization. Their empire had taught them to rule through fear and might. But the humans had taught them a different lesson, that courage and intelligence could topple arrogance faster than any weapon could dot as the starship rose from the planet's surface. Talrek looked down at the humans, standing firm, eyes steady. Not celebrating, but simply existing as they were. A strange warmth filled him, not pride, not victory, but understanding. They had underestimated the humans, yes, but now they would never forget them. Varek turned to Talrek. Do you think they will attack us again? Talrek shook his head slowly. No, they don't need to. They've already taught us more than any battle could. Their strength is not in destruction, but in survival. In courage. That is more dangerous than any fleet. Joran whispered, almost to himself. I never thought a species so small could make me feel so powerless. Talrek's eyes softened, and for the first time, he spoke without arrogance. Power is not just weapons or fleets. It is heart, courage, and unity. We came here to conquer. And instead, we learned humility. And perhaps respect. The ship's engines roared as they left the atmosphere. Talrek felt the reality settling in. Humans were not merely survivors, they were warriors in the truest sense. The Terran Empire might have had fleets, armies, and centuries of victories. But humans had something no empire could buy or build. Spirit dot in the silence of the stars. The three princes reflected on their failure. Talrek's claws rested heavily on the console, and he realized that no apology could undo the lesson they had learned. But perhaps, in understanding it, they could carry something greater than pride back to their people. Wisdom. Varek sighed, wings folding tightly. We underestimated them. And it almost cost us everything. Talrek looked out the viewport, staring at the planet that had humbled them. Yes, and never again will we make the mistake of thinking strength alone defines victory. Today, humans have taught us more than any battle, any war, or any empire ever could. They are remarkable. Joran nodded slowly, eyes soft with awe. And terrifying, he added quietly, almost in wonder. The three princes sat in silence, the hum of the ship echoing their thoughts. Their lesson had been harsh, their pride wounded, but their understanding was clear. Humans were not weak. They were extraordinary. For the first time, the Terran Empire princes truly saw them, not as prey, not as insects, not as a challenge, but as something far greater than they had imagined. Humanity had not only survived, they had taught, humbled, and inspired. And Talrek knew deep in his chest that the universe had just become a far more interesting place because of it.